Just a couple of short techniques that we can utilize is, as we're sitting here, if I go towards this side, so I'm going for a single hand clear and we're within this close proximity, I'm reaching for knife, keys, gun, doesn't really matter. I'm going up and I'm going to clear, he's going to anchor and he's going to immediately press in. The reason that he's pressing in is so that his head can be utilized to block my view so I don't see what he's actually doing. He's going to continue to drive me backwards, which we're not going to go all the way because he drives off the camera. But as we're sitting here, he is actually accessing his tools and he is keeping his rounds oriented downward. Once again, utilizing that close combat philosophy of knowing where your background is. And in an instance where you're under stress and I don't have the ability to necessarily take in all my surroundings, I want my body to automatically default to certain positions that are going to minimize the risk of background issues. So from this position, he'll actually come in, that muzzle is oriented downward. There's no reason why it shouldn't be at this point. We're going to put rounds into the lower midsection there, and then from that point he can break off and put rounds into the head if he needs to. So once again, I go here, I go to clear my garment, he's anchoring, he's pressing in, and he is accessing his tools from this point, single hand. So once again, or another option rather, is I go to clear left hand. Some guys might carry a pistol on their left side, they may carry a knife on their left, a pistol on the right, whatever the situation calls for. All he knows is that I am going and reaching for something. So within this close proximity, he is focused on my hands. Now he's not just staring at my hands, but he is focused, his attention is focused on my hands because that's where the threat is going to come from. So as I'm sitting here and I go to clear, he immediately responds to that threat. Now, like we showed before when we were just thwarting a draw, I don't have to necessarily grab the wrist, I don't have to grab the pistol. All I have to do is get in the mix. If I get my hand in the way, I'm going to effectively complicate his draw process, especially from a concealment situation. So I come in and he's immediately moving in, and now what he's going to look to do is, because he's on, or his weapon is on that right side, he's looking to keep that always to that outside. He doesn't ever want to be in a scenario where the weapon is between us, because then it's every bit as accessible to me as it is to him. So he's looking to keep it on his offside or on the outside of us. So as I go to clear, he's anchoring and he's going to facilitate now an arm drag as he reaches through and he pulls me through, keeping our bodies close to one another. This now allows him to access his tools to where he can go to work. And if we just kind of rotate here, you'll notice the orientation of his muzzle is still pointed downward into the hip. Now he can rotate around my backside if he wants, and he can put rounds into the back of the head, however he wants to do it at this point. And that situation is going to be dynamic, it'll be changing. So from this close proximity, we can see that you're going to have to be able to respond to the threat first. The immediate threat is the fact that I'm going for something. Once I go for something, even if I use a two-handed type draw in this type of method where I'm actually going to clear my garment and go, he's still going to respond in the same manner. He's still looking to push towards that offside, keeping his weapon on the outside, but he's also looking to thwart whatever it is that I'm going for while still accessing his tools. So if we go through this, I'm going to actually clear and start going. All he needs to do is get his hand in the middle. Doesn't really matter. What I teach is to come into that middle, and then I'm just going to glide around the side there. So all I know is that this left hand, it went to the center for my garment. That's all I know. At this point, I don't know whether the guy's got a knife, a gun, or whatever. I don't know. So all I know is that when he goes to clear for a two-handed draw, he's going into that center, my hand's going into the center. So I am racing him towards the center of his body. At that point, once he goes to clear, I am now effectively moving to that outside. Now I'll use my elbow and I'll use that hand to, again, I'm not looking to necessarily stop him from drawing the pistol. I just need to complicate it while I go to work with my tools. So as I'm sitting here, I go to do a two-handed clear, he's coming to the center, and then he's going to glide to that outside, keeping his elbow where it blocks the appendix and his hand where it blocks 3 o'clock. This gives him an ability to come in and to sink anything that I'm trying to do and to just complicate that draw. So if we do it from this side here, I go to draw, here he anchors, comes around, and then from this side he can now begin to access his tools and go to work once again, maintaining that downward shot as this hand stays braced in. He doesn't have to worry about shooting himself in the hand because of the orientation of the muzzle. So he's looking to put those rounds into that lower hip, the first couple of rounds. All right, remember that all of this is not going to be static. It's all going to happen very quickly. He's putting those first 2-3 rounds into the lower hip as he continues to rotate to the back, and then he can put rounds into the head if that's what he wants to do. So once again, as we start going here, I go two-handed clear. He draws, and then he's looking to access his tools.